Hello, everyone. Welcome to Prop Party Friday, a big day for the team. We have plenty of things for you today. I'm going to bring in the crew, Steven, Jake, and Derek. Don't worry, John is in the chat. He'll be hitting all things MLB. Jake will be touching on it a little bit, but we want to save the screen time for our college football props, our NFL props. A lot of this stuff you can find on Prize Picks and Underdog. A lot of great value on both of those places. We're going to start with tonight's games just to get off the bat for college football. And we're going to start let's start with Maryland, Jake, if you want to get started on Caden there.
Yeah, so we always like Talia Tagovailoa over pass yards, and we have good value. I've seen the number jump from 244 and when it opened to 259, so you could probably get it somewhere in between there. We have him at 280. We hit on his over last week. Virginia's pass defense is not great. They allowed a not great passer from JMU to throw for over 200 yards and complete like 75% of his passes last week. And Maryland's a pass-heavy team. We also have some slight value on Roman Hemby over 78.5 yards. I don't mind playing a Hemby like fantasy over. I think Hemby could really feast tonight, but the two best bets are Talia and Caden Prather over, I want to say 36.5 yards. You get is the best value. I want to say that's on Prize Picks. Underdog has it at 39.5. So a lot of these games are from before he transferred in, but he had 4 catches, 80 yards last week and a touchdown, and he started to establish a good connection with Talia Tagovailoa. And I think he should be able to get well above 40 yards tonight against a suspect Virginia defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we smashed the Baby Tua prop last week, didn't we, with his passing yards? And I missed that. What was he projected for now this week? Do we like that over as well?
Yeah, so you could get his line. I think I got it at 244.5 to open the week. You get it at 249.5 of Prize Picks today.
Right.
So we still have good value on over. Last week we got him projected 400 yards, and that didn't hit, but his over did hit. So
right,
there's still good value this week on his over. Again, we like the over props for Maryland because we have it projected to go over their team total at 34 points. Their biggest odds expect them to score 30.8 points, as Steven highlights. We actually like the over in this game, but a little value there. We also have good value on Malik Washington if you want to play his over at 49.5 yards as well. Mm-hmm. He had a big game last week against James Madison, 5 catches, 119 yards. He was one of Northwestern's better receivers before he transferred over. So I kind of like that too.
Right. Big Cheesy bringing it up. I don't know how I forgot to mention it, but our guy Jake's really pumped up for Prop Party Friday. Put on a little outfit for us. In all seriousness,
you guys.
We noticed that I commented on that.
Yeah.
I gotta watch what I say.
Yeah, this is what happens when you don't text in the group chat about what to wear the night before, and me and Jake are on really different vibes right now. But in all seriousness, he has somewhere to be, so we're going to get through his props and keep moving through. Let's move to the SEC noon game, LSU at Mississippi State, looking at Justin Robinson.
Yeah, I like Justin Robinson under here. He, for Mississippi State on the right side, he only averages, I think last year he averaged 24 yards per game. He is 1 catch in 2 games this year for 4 yards. I'm surprised that the line was 35.5. I guess it's because that LSU defense, if you watch that game against FSU, they got torched, but Justin Robinson isn't at the level of those FSU wide receivers like Keon Coleman. So, and Dietrich Griffin and Pittman, those are the top guys. So I don't think that he's going to get 35.5 receiving yards. I even saw that line at Underdog.
I know you guys can't read this, but I just looked at the chart that we manage a lot of the rosters and kind of behind the scenes. And he's played 12 games in this system, and he's accounted for under 9% of receptions, even lower for yardage, at under 10 yards per catch. So yeah, he's not. There's no. It is surprising to see a 35.5 yard line.
Yeah, he's gonna have to get at least 4 catches to go over that, and I think he's had 1 game where he's had above 4 catches in his career. Mm-hmm. So I like the under there. maybe there's something. There might be a reason why his line's at 35.5. Maybe they
Are there like 4 receivers suspended or for the game?
I tried looking up, but I didn't see anything in their injury report. So there might be maybe Pittman or Wally's hurt or something, but
if anyone's a member of the Mississippi State 24/7 Sports message board, let us know.
Yeah, I guess like Brock said, maybe because they're playing from behind and they expect, but also we've had to keep on adjusting Mississippi State's passing attack down. They're at 80% of what they were last year. Will Rogers, I think he only threw the ball 20 times last week, or maybe even less. 17 times. He went 14 to 17. He barely threw the ball last week. They're really relying on their running attack now that they don't have the Pirate. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Mike
Leach. I mean, they're just talking about a team that, maybe that's what it is. Is they're still Vegas models don't have necessarily time to look at every little detail. And, you got a team that averaged 52 pass attempts a game at home and then had 17 in week 1. Maybe it's still saying, okay, this team's still going to be good for 45. And given how LSU did. And so that must be it, right?
Because
but we're still right near 40 anyway. So even with that, even if we're kind of in line with Vegas, it doesn't make sense.
Someone in the chat, Jeff, is bringing up team no-show socks. I don't know if anyone saw, but Clemson's kicker, the team Clemson was playing. But that reminds me, the Clemson FAU game. I don't know if we have any strong value there, but I think that is Clemson's.
I think we have strong undervalue in that game. Okay. And a lot of it's probably
who did they play last week? Like Charleston Southern?
They played Charleston Southern, maybe?
That's why he had the no-show socks, because he was like a Charleston frat guy that just like walked off the beach.
We don't even have FCS games in there, so we don't even take that into account.
Yeah, we have Clemson coming well under the 38 team total.
Right.
Maybe 37.5. And because their offense just isn't looking, it's like where 5-star quarterbacks go to die all of a sudden, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had great success with Deshaun and Trevor, and then the last 2 look like they're bust. But I mean, it's too early to write Kate Klubnik away.
Right.
But it's definitely an indictment of seeing DJU throwing for all these yards at Oregon State when he didn't have his success at Clemson. And he's been roasting that Clemson offense. He's been talking trash about how he didn't get to do what he was best at. So maybe it is a Clemson problem.
Yeah. Let's move over to our other noon game, marquee matchup of the week, Wake Forest at Old Dominion. We have strong value here.
Yeah, I was surprised that this line was at plus 140. We still have some Sam Hartman taking into account a little for Wake Forest into their passing stats. But even with their adjustment going down, we still have them with 3 touchdowns. He had 2 touchdowns against Vandy. They didn't throw it that often. They ran it a lot. But if you look at Old Dominion's defense, they allowed 3 touchdowns in week 1 to Grant Wells, Virginia Tech's quarterback, who's not very good, by the way. He's probably going to get benched this week. They allowed 2 touchdowns last week. So getting plus 140 is pretty good value there.
Mm-hmm.
Over 2.5 touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of attempts, but I did quick math. I'm pretty sharp here. I believe he's got 53 pass attempts and 5 touchdowns in those attempts. So 53 is equivalent of 1.25 games. So in a full sample, he was at that 3.5 type TD per game pace.
Yeah, and Old Dominion's defense has not been good. So they allowed 38 points last week to 31 points to Louisiana. Who,
I mean, 36.
Louisiana's all right, but then they allowed 36 to Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech's not that good. Their pass defense isn't great. So getting plus 140 is a really good number there, in my opinion.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We can move over to the 3:30 slate. I believe this is the CBS game with Georgia hosting South Carolina. My Georgia Bulldogs, who had a great showing last night in the Eagles game. DeAndre Swift homecoming parade, not how we wanted it to go for our props. I don't think anyone expected it to go that way, but I got to count my blessings, right? And Eagles wins and Eagles win.
Yeah.
Like I said, Mackenzie, when I ran my own company, it's like subscriptions always went up. When you had the faith that people know you're smart, which you proved with that, Iowa, Utah State pick.
Mhm.
Then people like it more when you have an offer, because then they say, oh, can only go up from there. And then when they think you're smart and on a heater, they wait till you get cold.
Right.
So,
Fair enough.
subscriptions are going to fly off the shelves if we were actually
Yeah,
charging.
we are so back.
So real quick, going to Nick S's question, targeting any Huskies against dumpster fire Michigan State. So it was interesting. Rome Odunze, who I love, I think he could be a first-round pick for Washington. His prop line on Underdog opened at 84.5, and I hit the over, and then immediately, like 20 minutes later, I checked and it was at 98. And so we don't have value now, but I would not be surprised in the slightest if he goes over 100 yards. If you take just into his stats from last season on, which Steven could do, he's hit over 100 and looks like 65% of those games. So if you put, I guess, 98, let's see. Yeah, so it's 2-0 on the road this season. So it's over. It's 3-1. So I like a Rome Odunze prop. I think he gets over 100 yards. I was looking for a fantasy points projection on Prize Picks. I didn't see anything, but if that drops, I'd probably be on Odunze over there.
And Noah Kim from Michigan State's Korean, so I don't know. I don't know what that means. I just like to point that out.
Did you amp him up in The Sims?
Yeah, I think I did. What's the big deal? Should I not do that?
To each their own, Steven. I'm not here to mess with your model. Seems to be working. All right, let's move back. Spencer Rattler under 4.5 rushing yards against this Georgia defense.
Yeah, I like.
This goes against our model.
This goes against our model.
Wrong value.
Exactly, but this is why their offensive line is really banged up and it's really rough. And if you look at his game log, I think he had like 20 carries for negative 13 yards in the first game against North Carolina. So we don't. Yeah. I guess we don't have negative yards. I think he finished with negative 20 or something like that.
Yeah, he probably did. Something's up. Yeah.
So something's up with our stats.
Well, for the purposes of official stat categories, yeah, there's negatives obviously. But for models, like this database is not the stat, source of record. So for the modeling standpoint, we're counting the sacks, the lost sack yardage, for the sim's sake, not necessarily attributing past stats. So, if that makes sense, it is counting towards his rushing projection, the negative yardage, but the form you saw is just, not the official number.
Yeah. So, I mean, that banged up South Carolina offensive line versus that insane Georgia defense, I think he gets sacked a couple of times, and it's going to be hard.
Georgia hasn't been racking up sacks though. Does that?
I think it's time.
I think it's they haven't played SEC opponent this season. I think they'll be fine. I think.
And then even the Eagles now as the Eagles become more and more Georgia defense, their sack rate has gone down. The run defense looks awesome, but
like you said, they pick their battles. This year they're picking their run defense to be strong.
But I don't know if something about Georgia. I mean, maybe with their defensive tackles,
But I agree with Jake. Like, I mean, as much as I think they're amazing, I think sometimes they play to their competition's level a bit. We saw it a little bit last year. I think it was like Fresno State. We were sweating. I think SEC opponent at home, they're going to show up. I think it's going to be a bad night to be Spencer Rattler for sure. I saw a lot of people, I know it's not a prop, but I like to address the chat, talking about the Army game. A lot of people like Army to cover here. I think we talked about this on Cover 3 yesterday. Was there anything we had value on here?
We like the over.
We like the over, but if you take Frank Harris has been in a walking boot all week, and he was out for like a couple of drives last week, and that offense looked rough when Frank Harris was out. So assuming that he's banged up or he's not 100%, I like Army +8 big time here. Bryson Daly's looked pretty good. So Tyrell Robinson, he's been banged up. I'm not sure if he's playing. I have to look at the depth chart, but I definitely like Army here. Once you take into account Frank Harris is banged up.
Yeah. So the line opened at -11, which is exactly where we have it. It was bet down probably for the injury that you're talking about, Jake.
He was in a walking boot as of yesterday, so I think
we'll probably update this on our end. That's usually when a line movement's that significant and it's not driven by the public. Only 54% bet. 46% are only on Army. So this is the smart money. The people who know something have moved this significantly. So that's probably the best indicator that we should probably assume that he might be.
And I would get it now
50-50 at best
before it moves to under a touchdown, because if Frank Harris is out, it's going to be -5, -4, -6, somewhere in that range. Right. So I would get it at +8 if you like Army now.
Right. Yeah. We'll move back. We have one more, I believe, noon game play at Duke.
Oh yeah, Nick just commented this. This is one of our favorite plays today.
Oh yeah, Riley Leonard.
Wow, look at us, Nick. We're right in the same boat.
Yeah, I played this on a couple different websites. Just look at all those rushing yards. He's a great runner. Northwestern's defense isn't great. I wouldn't buy anything from that UTEP game last week. UTEP's rough. We're already throwing away our UTEP pick. I'm already throwing it away. But I think Riley Leonard should have a ton of success. He had 98 yards against Clemson running in the first game.
Yeah, look at Northwestern giving up 223 rushing yards per game on the road last year.
They played last year. I wonder how many yards Riley Leonard had in that game rushing. If you look at his
17, so he can only go up from there.
Oh yeah. So I wouldn't mind playing his pass yards plus rush yards combined. I think it's around 250 because his pass number was at like 220, so it's probably gonna be at 250-ish. So I wouldn't mind playing over there, just combine his yards, because I don't think if he's not running the ball, he's probably throwing the ball pretty well.
Mm-hmm. So we got 294 total combined, so that seems like a safer bet.
Yeah. Let's move over to an actual marquee matchup with Tennessee, Florida. Jake is fading his own alma mater, which I probably against him. But let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Gators could hang in there, but Graham Mertz, our offensive line's really banged up. Look at all those interceptions he's thrown against Utah, against Minnesota, against a lot of those pass attempts were when he was at Wisconsin. And honestly, he's going to throw the ball more this game probably against Tennessee. Is their front's a lot better than the Gators' offensive line. So if the Gators want to keep the game close, he's going to have to throw the ball. So, I mean, I'm surprised at the Lions at -125, honestly. I thought this would be more -160. We have them projected for, 1.14? I mean, I'm not betting against Gators here, but betting against Mertz not throwing an INT.
No, that's not. I mean, like you said, if they want a shot at this game, it's probably going to have to be in the air, which just inevitably in college football could probably mean an interception.
Yeah. Florida couldn't run it at all against Utah.
So Florida ran the ball, I think, 3 times. Their starting running back ran it 3 times for 6 yards, but then he ran it 17 times for 120 yards, but it was an FCS opponent last week. I think they're going to try to run it early if they can. Again, if they're not getting any push, I think they're going to try to throw the ball. And Tennessee's run defense has been pretty good, and their pass rush is really good as well. So I think it's going to give Mertz some trouble.
Right. And speaking of Wisconsin, we have a player prop over there as well.
Yeah, this is another one with not a lot of sim value, but if you take into account that he's got a majority of the carries over Braylon Allen, and Wisconsin is running like 20% more plays this year than they did last year. They're much faster pace offense, that I think he gets 13, 14 carries, and we have the overhitting if he has 11 carries. So if he gets above 11 carries, which I think he should, I like the over. So this is where I pretty much take the 6.2 yards per carry into account more than his projection. So if he gets 11, more than 11 carries, I think he easily hits this number.
Right. All right, let's hit another. We have a few more that we want to get through for college. We'll go Cam Camper, another insane name. Over 33.5 receiving yards. Indiana, who is playing
Louisville.
Thank you. They actually call it Louisville down there.
Yeah.
I know it's interesting. So
South.
in Colorado, it's pronounced Louisville. It's
Yeah.
spelled the exact same way. So I thought that's interesting. So Camper's been banged up, but he's by far their top weapon. He's hit the over 33.5 in both games this season, barely. I think he had 35 and against Ohio State, 34 last week. But he's looking better in practice. He's looking more healthy. Indiana, they didn't even have a starting quarterback. They barely threw the ball against Ohio State. They did nothing against Ohio State. They had scored 3 points, and he hit the over in that game. Louisville, if you watch them play against Georgia Tech's Haynes King, who didn't look good when he was at Texas A&M, he threw for like 390 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game. So I think Indiana is going to have a decent amount of success throwing the ball. And for any of you college basketball fans, Indiana's quarterback, Taven Jackson. If Jackson sounds familiar, that's Trace Jackson Davis's little brother. So if he gets 191 yards, if he hits around 200 yards, I think Camper, based on that, he gets like over 30% of their target share. I think he should hit the over there.
30% of the team's passing yards when he plays.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's like Cooper Kupp level.
Yeah. They know that he's the number 1 wide receiver in Indiana.
Yeah, so at 33.5, they're saying, the Indiana's going to have 109 passing yards. So it's almost like a bet that if you think Indiana can pass the ball for at least 150, that he's a good bet to cruise on over.
Exactly. Derek commenting about his
muted myself. Yeah, I saw that. Derek's taking care of Toledo in the chat.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Have it.
He has probably around 2,000 words or to talk about Toledo.
Yeah. But I want to talk about, for people who have underdog, which is where a lot of these props are that Jake is talking about, they have an extra point prop that Jake likes here at Akron.
Yeah. So another Ohio team. So last week I faded Iowa's kicker. I had under 2.5 extra points for Iowa, and it was scary because they had 2 extra points in the first half alone, and it's Iowa's offense, so they didn't score in the second half of that game. They didn't score a touchdown in the second half. They scored a field goal. I like fading Akron's offense here. I like them under 1.5 extra points because their projected Vegas odds are 12 to score 12 points. So that means that they're not scoring 2 touchdowns there.
Right.
I mean, Kentucky's defense at home is a lot better than on the road. They're basically built around their defense. I don't think Akron's going to have a lot of success. Maybe if they get close, they kick a field goal, and the field goal is an extra point, so you're getting some value at under 1.5 extra points.
Yeah. So with these, like I haven't seen it, but these extra point props, like what's the lowest number that they even allow for like an overplay? Like, do they even have like?
I probably have 100 or half of an extra point in some games. Yeah, I'm sure if it's like Ohio State versus Bowling Green or something like that, it's probably.
But it's not your traditional sports book, so you don't bet like minus 180 on under half, right? It's just underdog and prize picks are fantasy, so they don't have those factors.
Right. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up with college football there. We're happy to answer questions in the chat. Jake will be there. Derek's still there, but we're going to move into some NFL. I'm going to bring Derek back in here. Let's start at the top of the slate. Again, wait, I got to show you guys the recap screen of last Friday. Let's take a little look here. 14-7 on the weekend, 9-5 in college football, 5-2 in NFL. So in case you need a little reassurance that you should be paying attention to us, there it is. All right, so let's move to the top of the slate with Atlanta. I gotta field through these. Here we go. I know we want to hit John Robinson. Steven, if you want to start pulling him up. Here we go.
Yeah. So he obviously doesn't have a long track record. He's played 1 game. He had 79 combined yards last week. I just was really impressed by Atlanta's run game. Even though they didn't have the ball a lot, they still had a great rushing performance. If you look last year, Atlanta averaged 170 rushing yards a game, and if anything, they should be better this year. So even if Bijan isn't the even if he gets 40% of the rushing yards, then that still should be good for close to 65 just in rushing. So the prop of 75.5 for rushing and receiving, that's really seems like a clear over here. The Packers defense played really well against the Bears in general, but they did allow 4.2 yards per carry. Last year, they were really bad against the run on the road, allowing 150 and 5.2. So I think Bijan, the reason I was originally going to play is over in rushing yards, but I like the combined yards simply because, if they do end up passing a little bit more, I think Bijan's going to be the receiving back. So I like that one quite a bit. The Fantasy Football Today guys have Bijan as RB4, and we have him only at 6. Well, only, but so I would, even though the FFT guys aren't picking props necessarily, that's a good indicator that those experts think that Bijan's going to have a top 5 fantasy game. Even more optimistic about his performance than we are. So they would probably bet the over as well.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, and what did you say his receiving yards were last week?
Last week he had 79 combined rushing and receiving yards. So over the number.
I like it. All right, I want to bring Jake back in here for his Buffalo prop. Raiders are in Buffalo. We are looking at the Bills.
Yeah. So he had 29 yards or 26 yards through the first 3 quarters. He didn't have a pass reception in the 4th quarter last week, but this Las Vegas defense is not nearly at the level that the Jets defense is at. I think Kincaid should easily hit this number, and I hope so because he's on my fantasy team. So I like that we have him projected for over. I think he should have a ton of success. They had 4 catches in the first half last week, and I think they're trying to target him early and often in this game.
Yeah, so the interesting part about the Bills is that they're going a lot of 21 personnel. For those guys who don't know, that's 2 tight ends. So since they're going to have 2 tight ends most of the time, so that means he's going to be on the field for the majority of the time. So that's better opportunity for him to catch the ball.
Yeah, they used Knox as a blocker a lot and kept Kincaid on in the game. So I thought it was very interesting watching that game.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Big Cheesy asking about Nick Chubb, which I believe is in Monday Night Football, if we like his receiving yards there.
Yes, we do, I think. I mean, it was it's still pretty low. It's 12.5, right? Yeah, I saw that. I almost picked this one, but I obviously didn't. But yeah, we projected for 18. You pointed this out, Derek, last week that the plan is to use him more of a receiver, and he has been getting far more looks in the last couple games, including last time he played Pittsburgh, which was the end of last year. 6 targets, 5 receptions, 45 yards.
That is the game that we need to model it off after. I mean, that's one of the ones where we get an insight of what the Browns are going to do this year. Last week, it was a dreary rain last week in Cleveland that people did not think was going to happen the whole entire game. That was a miserable kind of rain that you do not want to be in. As a guy from Cleveland, yes, that's horrible to be into that. Plus, that was horrible football weather where the ball gets.
Plus, you're in Cleveland.
Hey, nothing's wrong with Cleveland there. Hey, a lot of people like
no, beautiful Baltimore, sunny Baltimore.
Yeah, well, they're still thieves too. So, but okay.
Best ones.
Thieves as in stealing the football team that was formerly known as the Browns. But anyway, so with Nick Chubb, he should have more receptions this time. And then also they try to put him out at wide receiver also. So that's another key thing. So this week we don't expect a lot of rain or wind. So this should be a normal game. So yes, we do like Nick Chubb with those receiving yards.
Let's move over to another running back with Khalil Herbert, over 39.5 rushing yards. Stephen, I believe a bet.
So, he's listed as RB1 in the depth chart. He only had 27 yards last week, but that was a bad effort against Green Bay. They fell way behind early, so they couldn't stick with the run. I actually also like the fact that last night when I was looking at some more detailed reviews, most of the books only had Herbert's line at running back and Fields. They didn't have Roshan Johnson and Dante Foreman, which is usually an indicator that, most people aren't sure how consistent the role those two will get. And Herbert's the only one with a clear definitive role. So that combined with Tampa Bay, their run defense 2 years ago, and certainly when they won the Super Bowl was spectacular. Last year, largely because their offense was struggling so much, but last year they were much worse against the run. And, and they had a great game against Green Bay week 1, but maybe Green Bay can't run the ball without Dalvin Cook. I know Minnesota can't run Minnesota can't run the ball without Dalvin Cook, and Tampa Bay shut them down. But I just like Herbert's. It's a pretty low number for the RB1 of Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry. Mention it again. What was the? Go ahead.
One last thing. I was like, he has in his track record, he has kind of a nice little bounce back feature. So he bounces back from a 38 with 157. One time he had an 11 with 75, a 23 with 57. So out of his 4 times recently where he had under 39.5 rushing yards, he bounced back with the over 4 out of 5 times.
Mm-hmm. We have a question in the chat about the Rams with Atwell. If we like his.
Yeah. Everyone went Puka crazy after all the targets and catches, and now might be hurt.
Yeah, he's hurt right now. He didn't play. Well, he didn't practice yesterday. So follow me if you want to know if he plays or not when the injury report comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even with before his injury, our sim model was higher on Atwell than the Fantasy Football Today experts, and we had him projected as the Rams' leading receiver. So what's the line? I don't know what the line was on Atwell. I can look it up, but we probably have overvalue. Testing out a new odds provider service. Give me a second. If you want to kill some time, I can look it up.
Yeah.
But.
Well, you look that up. I need to get like a whole graphic for this, but we need to get our kicker props going for Derek here. We can start with Evan McPherson, over 1.5 field goals made. These are successful props. Derek is on fire with the kickers. Just trust the process here.
Yeah, so with Atwell, I don't even see him on receiving guards here.
I'm
DraftKings.
testing a new provider, so we will see.
Okay, all right. So, sorry, Evan McPherson.
Atwell, I sell 39.5 as the best price, and so we would like the over.
All right, yeah.
At minus 125, minus 119 is the best price at 39.5.
Right.
So Evan McPherson over 1.5 field goals made. And then it's plus 114 on DraftKings. He has made at least 2 field goals in 3 out of the last 5 games. And then for the Ravens, they've given up 1.8 field goals made per game to opponents last year. And so,
I love this prop. Sorry, Derek, go ahead. I have a point to make when you're done, but I love this. I was going to steal it from you, but go ahead.
So because the Ravens might not have, then again, somebody might be out with Hamilton and Peterson might be out in their secondary, which is 2 of their best secondary guys. So then that means that the Bengals should be able to move the ball down the field. And then the Ravens normally have a top 10 defense. So you're going to rarely be able to score on them through the air or even running the ball. And then our Sportsline model is projecting 1.8 field goals made for this game. Yeah.
So when the Ravens play the Bengals, we have a very clear bend but don't break strategy. 2 years ago, when we had a battered secondary and Wink Martindale was thinking he could out fool Joe Burrow, Burrow had almost 1,000 passing yards in 2 games. Then we brought in Mike McDonald last year as a defensive coordinator. He didn't have more than 200. I think 217 was his high out of 3 games we played him last year. And we just say we're not going to be beat over the top. After Tua and Tyreek Hill did it to us early last year, they just have a whole strategy. Like, we're not going to be able to stop this team. So if we're going to give up anything, we'll give up that 8 yards underneath. And then we'll just buckle down in the red zone, which they do really effectively. So the Ravens, and then we did that against even CJ Stroud last week, which was, it's okay to let them move down the field. They're not going to be able to score a touchdown on us from 18 yards out. And so I think the Bengals will get 5 scoring drives, but 3 field goals.
Right.
And
I see the questions in the chat. We're going to get to those. But while we're on the topic, if you thought we were done with kicker props in this game, you were wrong. Boom. Justin Tucker over 1.5 field goals made. Derek, let the people know.
So Justin Tucker, this is just disrespectful. Okay, plus 116 at Caesars. This guy is arguably the best kicker in the game. And so Justin Tucker has made at least 2 field goals in 4 out of the last 6 games that Lamar Jackson has completed a game. Not just only on the games that Tucker has played in, but when Lamar Jackson actually plays. And so the Bengals, they give up 1.8 field goals per game last year to opponents. And so the Bengals have a new two safeties that are very inexperienced. So I believe the Lamar can go down the field and then get inside of the 20-yard line or wherever. Actually, as soon as you get to the 40-yard line of the Bengals, Justin Tucker could make the field goal. Plus, our Sportsline model has him making 1.8 field goals in this game.
The Ravens are awesome at getting into this red zone. Last week we scored really effectively, but we were close to the goal line. We didn't execute well in that 20, 25 yards out range. So that I could definitely see that. Plus, remember Tucker, I just want to remember like last year when we won in the first time we played the Bengals and he hit that field goal that the Next Gen Stats discovered was the perfect field goal. It was completely in the center of the uprights by like 0.01, centimeters, something ridiculous. It was the perfect field goal.
Right.
Anyway,
I want to hit the chat real quick. Questions about ATN and Derrick Henry, which I believe Derrick Henry is a player that we already liked before this. We actually like receiving yards, but if you want to touch on both and then touch on ATN as well.
Okay, well, so I'll go to Tennessee. We got a lot of value on the Tennessee against the spread this week, but I'm a little worried about in terms of that game prop because DeAndre Hopkins hasn't been practicing. Now I know he's not the most passionate practice player, so maybe this is the plan all along to let him get his better rest.
So even if he doesn't practice, he does play. Like there's a lot of guys that do this, so I wouldn't take that too lightly. I mean.
But, the big thing about Derrick Henry is he's averaged 27 receiving yards since the beginning of last year. The over is 10-8 in that time. But recently, 6 of his last 8 games, he's gone over a pretty low number of 15.5. We're projecting him for 25, right around what he's been averaging for the last couple of years. After Tannehill had 3 interceptions last week, I think he's going to go, okay, I'm going to pass to DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm going to dump it off to Henry. And we're going to try to keep the ball away from the Chargers by running the ball against a team that was a disastrously bad running defense last year, allowing 5.6 yards per carry on the road. So I think Henry will just have more snaps, on the field, and then the Tannehill to limit mistakes will look to him as an easy option. Going back to ATN on the Jacksonville question, what's the line that the question had? For ATN,
rushing yards.
Hey, just to go on, like the Chargers, they gave up last year an average of 144 yards rushing,
and it was like 5.6 yards per carry. It's like
so,
everyone becomes, and
that's
Walter Payton against them. Yeah,
that's in the bottom 5. That's about the bottom 7 in the NFL. So
ATN.
So I'll look up
57.5.
All right.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, we don't. So we have them at 65 with the juice. A simple math. I like to, if the juice is like minus 120, then you try to add 20% to that number. So if you add a 20% number to a number like 50 something, then you're not going to have a lot of value above that, which is why we don't have. So if we were going to bet. So the number I see on this service that I'm testing out, the best price is 57.5 at minus 110. So if you can get that, shop around. Looks like Bet 365 has that. Then yeah, if you're high on the over for a lot of reasons, we would support that. It's not our favorite play.
Right. I just want to get back to that Chargers-Titans game real quick with one more prop here. Justin Herbert, under 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Yeah, it's obviously I have a new coordinator, but I was kind of surprised that Herbert's average passing touchdowns per game is only 1.4 since last year. He had 30, he had the rookie record with 30. He's a 30-plus guy every year, and then last couple of years it's been way down. And the best part of week 1 was their offense was all about the running game. And Josh Kelly, the backup running back, everyone's excited about his emergence. So Eckler might be hurt. but I think that they might rely on Kelly a lot. So I just think that, and then Tennessee's pass defense, they were really good 2 years ago. Last year they struggled due to injury. I think that they allowed a lot of yards in week 1 to Derek Carr, but only 1 touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I can see this being a yardage thing, but not the touchdowns. I think let's trust the run more.
Interesting.
Let's plus money too. I like that. Plus 124. Yeah.
True.
That was interesting.
Yeah, we like the value. We're all about the value plays here.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break and hear from John. He's going to bring in a little Prize Picks parlay. I want him to explain it because he can explain it better than me. If you guys want to screenshot this graphic, John can take you through what him and Jake have cooked up for today.
Yeah, so Jake left us here, so I'm jumping in to explain this Prize Picks play. But Jake and I made it together. We figured we'd go with 5 because we didn't love a 6th. But we've got Christian Javier over 4.5 strikeouts. The Royals strike out a ton. Even if Javier's not pitching well, he should be able to rack up the strikeouts because that's usually how he gets outs. So we think we get at least 5 strikeouts there. Griffin Canning, less than 7 strikeouts. So he has been hitting this over about 50% of the time, but he faced the Tigers last month and he did get 8 strikeouts, but that means all of their hitters have already seen his stuff now. So I highly doubt, even if he gets deep in the game, I think he'll pitch well, but I don't think he'll be striking out a lot of batters. Michael Harris, I believe this is a model play. I think we just love Michael Harris from the model. He should be in the starting lineup too. I think the Braves are going to go with their normal starting lineup, even though they just clinched the division 2 days ago, because they had the off day yesterday to recover and get unhungover. Zach Eflin over 15.5 pitching outs. I think he's going to pitch well today. The worry here is that the Rays bullpen has been so good that they don't necessarily need Eflin to get deep in the game, but the Rays bullpen is a little bit worked right now. So I think they're going to at least go with Eflin over 5 innings. And then Trey Turner, the hottest hitter in baseball right now, that explains itself. He has 11 home runs in his last 14 games or something absurd like that. So we like that over.
Cool. Yeah. Again, we love the Prize Picks Friday, Player Prop Friday. So take a screenshot of this, take a picture. We like to ride our plays with you. I'm definitely going to cook up a little Prize Picks parlay with some of these college football props and NFL props later. But with that, thank you, John.
Prize Picks won't let me register. I don't know if I'm blacklisted or something, but I've tried to register multiple times with different emails. And it won't let me.
They know you're
because you're not allowed to register.
They know you're a shark. They know you're moving a lot.
Yeah.
They can't handle your fire.
I don't know. Our former head of fantasy down here has now joined them recently. I got to tell him to unlock something.
All right. Well, with that, John, you're dismissed. You're back to the chat. Thank you for that quick intermission. We are back to the NFL.
I saw a question, Mackenzie, about Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I can't figure out how to join the chat.
100%.
The line that I saw, the best line was 74.5, and so we would lean over. But again, not enough to at minus 110 even. But if whoever likes the over, I agree. Seattle's dead to me after last week and how they played in the second half against the Rams, and their defense looked terrible.
High on them. Oh my god.
Yeah. But for some reason, the weird thing is the line's gone from 5. It was Detroit minus 5.5. I think it was up to minus 6, and now it's come back down to minus 4.5. I don't know why the steam on Seattle. Detroit scores 14 more points at home than they do on the road last year. Seattle allows almost 10 more on the road than they did at home last year. It's like, what's up with this? Detroit's got extra days rest. It's kind of disturbing to me. But yeah, I love the Brown over, even if the model is just slightly leaning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so unless I'm checking right now, the injury report for Seattle, if Witherspoon, I think that was the first round pick cornerback.
Yeah.
Seattle. If he plays, that could change the line. I mean,
yeah, but he wasn't even popping in the preseason and camp. I don't think. I think there was some concerns about. I saw another question about Gibbs. We would lean over 25.5 receiving yards. Again, not necessarily enough to overcome the juice, but we would back it if we were voting.
Yeah, Witherspoon is full practice, so we'll see.
Okay.
Let's move back to one more kicker prop from Derek. Brandon Aubrey, 1.5 field goals made.
So Brandon Aubrey is a rookie. However, they are going against the Jets. The Jets give a 0.9 of a touchdowns per game to their opponents last year. I mean, they're not giving up anything. They're passing touchdowns. So, also Aubrey from our Sportsline model is predicting 1.8 field goals made. So the Jets are really going to be stingy on giving up touchdowns, especially because they have Wilson there. So that's why I like them to stop Dallas from scoring actual touchdowns and forcing them to make field goals and keep this not an up and down racing up the field kind of game.
Aubrey was the soccer player. Right? He never played football at college. He was like the USFL guy or something, and he missed an extra point the first play, but then his field goals actually looked pretty solid after that.
I think he was just nervous,
Yeah,
like that was his first kick. I mean, yes, he shanked it, but the rest of them,
the field goals looked fine and the extra points looked fine except for that first one. So he got the jitters out.
And then the Cowboys' offense did not look like it was, firing on all cylinders. So I was a little.
We don't have much in terms of yardage projected for Dak, though, and Brandon Cooks might be out as well. So you might have Sauce shut down Lamb, and not much else going on there. So
I like that.
I like that.
So Cowboys, they played Giants last week. Terrible. Let's move over to the Giants, who we actually like as our survivor pick for week 2. Because they're playing Arizona, and that speaks for itself on top of a few other things. But we think Daniel Jones will find success here, over 34.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, so, Daniel Jones showed zero chemistry with his wide receivers. Darren Waller is playing through a hamstring injury that I saw was similar to the one that has Cooper Kupp on IR. So the Giants know that this is a must-win for the Giants, right? You can't lose 40-0 at home to a division rival. And then lose to what everyone's considering the worst team in the league. So but the Giants are good enough to run a completely conservative run, not only run first, run only offense, I think, and win the game. So I think they'll rely heavily on the run. Daniel Jones projected for over 40 rushing yards. He's averaged right around 45 since the beginning of last year with Brian Daboll. Everyone's saying, you got to take Daniel Jones out last week when he was getting murdered all game. But Daboll obviously doesn't care. Leave him out there. So he'll call plenty of designed runs for Daniel Jones if that's what it's going to take to get a must-win situation. Mm-hmm. Arizona's run defense is actually worse at home for the last couple of years in terms of yards per carry allowed. They're not good on the road either, but, they allow quite a bit. So, yeah, I think it's like Daniel Jones, you're going to earn your money. If you're not going to pass the ball for us, then you're going to be the second best running back on the team.
Yeah. So, and also after the game, after the Giants lost, they worked out 3 wide receivers the next day. So that tells you how much they care or think about their wide receivers.
The current room, yeah.
Right. All right. Before we move to our Monday night pick, which I just now today realized there's 2 Monday night games. Someone's asking important questions in the chat about my iced coffee, and I'm happy to share. So Nespresso pod iced coffee with brown sugar, Trader Joe's oat creamer, and cinnamon. So thank you for all of the questions and concerns in the chat. I'm flattered. Okay. Moving on.
Gotta give you one of those.
Just had to do one of those sidebars there. Okay, moving on to Monday Night Football. Saints wide receiver. What do we like about this matchup in general?
Not a heck of a lot in terms of the game lines. We have the slightest leaning on Carolina at home. We have the same over under as the lines. We have a 1 point difference in the lines 3, but nothing worth betting on. But Rashid Shaheed jumps out at me. So I love the fact that J.C. Horn, who can't seem to stay healthy, the corner for Carolina, is out. Probably. I mean, he hasn't been officially ruled out, but he might be out for multiple weeks. So whoever they have on that end is going to be focused on Olave. Then Michael Thomas had a pretty good, return game last week. So this Shaheed is going to get at best the slot corner. Shaheed's a speed, big play wide receiver, and so you can't not put your best corner on Olave. Mm-hmm. So they have some combination of a third corner and a safety trying to even you can't double team Shaheed. He's wide receiver 3. So, I just love that matchup. He's averaged 52 2 yards on the road. Overs 5-1. His overs hit 6 of his last 7 games. What we're projecting is basically an average game for him. So we're not expecting a ton of points. So I like it when our projection for the team is exactly the same as the Vegas projection. Or in this case, we're actually projecting fewer points. So this is not based on, we think New Orleans is going to put up 30 and then every player has an over. This is, we don't have an over on Olave, I don't think, or Michael Thomas. This is specifically a distribution of what Shaheed accounts for. And I just like, with Carolina's injuries on defense, there's no one to check a guy who is, 16% of the team's receptions. I know you can't read this. 24. Oh, you know what? Let me go to a forum. I sometimes forget the work that I do. I think I did do a view that you could read this. So let me see. You can kind of read that, right? So 16% of the team's receptions, but 24% of the team's yards. So yeah, that's like 1.5. And a lot of touchdowns. So he might have a good touchdown prop on him as well.
Look, 2 years ago, the guy catch one ball for 50 yards, and that was his average. So anytime he catches the ball, he has an opportunity to have.
It just there's no one going to be in the secondary is going to be there around him to catch up with him. And Carr obviously likes him. I saw camp reports that were positive. Target him 6 times. Even ran the ball twice out of the backfield. So he's being used as this kind of big play weapon.
Mm-hmm. I want to take one more question before we get out of here. Back to the 1 p.m. slate. Romeo over 37.5 receiving yards against the Falcons. Do we like that?
See, that line might go up because Christian Watson might not play. So if we do if somebody really likes that, they probably want to jump on it now because Christian Watson might not play.
Yeah. So we will have the over if Dobbs, if Watson's out. With Watson eating up at a 50-50 or maybe 60-40 in this projection, he's eating up 35 of the yards. Those get redistributed back to the other guys. So you'd see Jaden Reed, Dobbs. And then if Aaron Jones is also out, even though he's a running back, he's also the primary receiver running back. Yeah. So if Aaron Jones is also out or hurt or limited, then there may be 50, 60 more receiving yards that get equally distributed to Jaden Reed, Dobbs, Musgrave, and some other peripheral players.
Love it.
So get the over now.
Yeah, basically sense of urgency there. Yeah. So we'll come back out with I'll make a recap video that we can put on Twitter with our props, but still feel free to ask us questions before the weekend starts, before tonight. Jake will be on college football stuff. We can answer NFL questions all weekend long. I will be hosting the early. Oh, let me bring John back in here. Sorry. Didn't mean to leave you hanging over there. I will be hosting the early edge tomorrow. So that should be a movie. First time doing that.
You're hosting it?
I am hosting it. Yes. Me and DC breaking down college marquee matchup best bets. So stay tuned for some model stuff there. But with that said, if not, we will see you guys on Tuesday and good luck